Hey, what's up, guys? Derek Stewart, how's it going? That's me, Derek Stewart. Happy New Year to you. First video of 2019. That's pretty cool, right? Hope you guys are awesome and feeling good. Terrible brush for an introduction. But you know what? That's not what this video is about. Let's change up our pen. So this video, I want to address something that I personally find very important when you're working with digital art, and that is layers. A lot of people don't really know how to approach layers, or really are maybe afraid of them, or maybe just have some organizational issues that kind of make their life more difficult as they proceed with their drawing or their painting or whatever. So I'm just going to do a quick demo of how I approach layers when I'm making my pinup or cartoons or whatever. So this is just a blank page, but I'm gonna show you kind of how, on a very small scale, how I do things. So you see that I have things broken down here in Procreate. I have them broken down between an ink group and then also a paint group. So what that means basically is any ink lines that I might draw over my initial pencil sketch. And again, I usually, most often, I'd say 99.99999% of the time, I will start a drawing on paper with pencil, physical paper and pencil, and then I'll scan that, and then I'll go back into Procreate or Sketchbook or Photoshop or whatever, and then I'll go over that in digitally with ink lines and stuff. So let's say I've already done all the sketching, and that's, you're seeing like a sketch underneath all of this. So I break things down into these two groups, ink and paint. And I always will start with the ink first, and usually I start with the skin, because more often than not, especially with pinup, naturally you're just going to see a lot more skin, right? So I'll start with skin. I'll find a nice ink pen. The Studio pen in Procreate is, I think, a default, and they recently updated it. It's great. And so usually what I'll do is, and I'll just keep things really simple, just for the sake of this demo. Pretend this is a head. If you hear any weird tapping and stuff, it's just me drawing directly on the screen. So so I've got a basic head, and then a lot of times I would go in and do, let's say we have some eyelashes, right? So let's pretend these are eyelashes. Okay. All right. So you got your basic eyelashes. I'm not going to go any further than that. And then I have those all organized under a single group, okay? Now, one of the reasons that I do it this way is because a lot of times I don't want to have all of the ink on one layer, because, naturally, if you want to have a more illustrated sort of rendered look, you might want to go in later once you figure out where all your lighting and shadows are going to be. And you can alpha lock, basically just lock the pixels in, and then you can change your color, change your brush. A nice airbrush is pretty cool. And then let's say the lighting is coming up from the top right, for example. Then you can go in and you get this nice easy way to sort of alter the colored pixels that you have there, right? Okay, so don't want to jump too far ahead with that. So then let's pretend that I didn't just do that, because that's usually something that I would do later. But that's just kind of demo why I have everything broken down into the ink layers, right? Okay, so then let's say that I'm happy with where my inks are, and I'm ready to start blocking out my color, and that's basically what the paint is. So with the paint, like I already have a nice color. I'm going to go ahead and select this nice hard round brush. You don't need to edit it at all. Okay, so now I'm on my skin layer here, and it always is very helpful to just keep things named, because sometimes you'll end up with like 50 layers of information, and you're not going to really want to spend a lot of time poking through and hiding and revealing layers just to figure out which one you're trying to work with. So it's important to name each one of your layers. And if it's skin, that's going to relate to this skin layer. Go ahead and name it the same thing. Okay. So yeah. So then, and oh, one other thing. It's important that you have, especially for the kind of cartooning that I'll do, the ink is sort of a featured part of the drawing, right? So you want to have that on top of the color, which is why you see things organized with ink on top, because ink's right above the paint, right? You guys get that. So back to the skin layer. So everything that's underneath the skin ink, you can just go in color. And this works essentially the same way on, Photoshop. Obviously I'm in Procreate, Photoshop. What's the other one? Well, basically anything that has layers, it works pretty much the same way. Top layer is the featured layer, and everything else underneath it will show up behind that those top layers. So anyway, I have the skin here. This shadow. I don't want to get too far into the weeds here, but sometimes it's a little bit confusing as far as like how to use blend modes. And if you want, you can keep the same color as the skin, and then just change to multiply mode. You see, I went from normal to multiply, and that just basically means that you're getting a certain level of transparency to your layer, but it's also basically making everything that is white, I believe, becomes completely transparent, and everything that is color and black is more opaque. Okay, will apply itself overlaid to the other layers. Okay, so keep the same skin tone and apply it to a multiply layer over the skin layer. You get this nice, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and do selection. Oops, my bad. Selection, not copy. So it basically makes everything that's on this skin layer is now selected. But then I'm going to move to my skin shadow layer and then select my brush. And then again, considering that the light is coming from the top right, I'm going to go ahead and let's see, what do I have? I guess we can do the hard round brush for now. So you get this sort of like nice shadow kind of thing happening, and this looks a little bit too stark of a contrast for me. It almost looks like this person might be blushing or they're sunburnt or something. So oops, you can go back into your layer and then select that little M, and then you just change the opacity like that, so you get more of a softer shadow. Also, you can change the blend, or the brush on your eraser to be more of a soft round kind of a thing. So you get, there you go, sort of a gradient shadow, right? Yeah, and so that's basically how I work with layers. And I'm going to go ahead and show you a demo. It's not going to be so much of a demo, but more of just a time lapse of a recent drawing I did of Wonder Woman. And I'm doing all the same thing, it's just on a much grander scale. You know what? I'll go ahead and pull that up here. Okay, guys, so here is the Wonder Woman piece I put together a while ago, and I'm going to go ahead and include a nice time lapse for this because I haven't done a video in a little while, and I kind of feel like I want to show this one off. But here again, I have everything. There's so many more layers at this point, at the finished stage. I'm kind of pulling out a little Sean Connery for some reason. So you notice that I have a lot of extra stuff here. The background is kind of separated into its own group. At one point, I had some circles in the background. I don't think I ended up using those. So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and delete those. Don't need them. Yeah. So again, you see down here on the bottom, I had the pencil art, and then over that, I started with the ink, and then once I was happy with that, I came through with the paint. Yeah, and I have everything kind of broken down into certain elements. So I have the skin here on the bottom, which actually I don't think I used that one ultimately, did I? No, that was a redo. Yeah, so let's go ahead and clean things up, make my life a little easier. I remember making a couple of changes on the lashes and the eyebrows and things. So anyway, yeah, so I started with the skin, and then I started adding things like the, larger pieces like the chest piece, and then the lashes, the lips, the gold parts in the armor, and then of course the hair. And once I was all done with that, I went back down and added, larger chunks of skin, or larger chunks. That sounds kind of scary. Larger chunks of ink, like the skin here, and then the DS. I call it drop shadow. I know it's not actually a drop shadow in this case. It's just an easy way, shorthand for me to remember how I have things laid out. And I think there, I ended up using the same exact skin tone. I've kind of been experimenting recently with skin tones, but in particular finding the complementary cooler shade of a skin tone. So basically, like if I had what I mean by complementary. For those of you who don't understand that, complementary is just basically the extreme opposite of a color on the color wheel. So basically, if you had this skin tone, which I selected right here, is positioned on this sort of value map, but then it's also you have this you're kind of more in this red zone. So the extreme opposite of that would be over here, right? So basically, that just means I'm kind of just playing with the idea of having, a cooler sort of complementary tone as a shadow, an extreme shadow, to play over the skin. I don't want to get too far into that. That's probably confusing. I don't know. Maybe I'll edit that out. Who knows? But it's, you guys should try that and see if you get any success with it. But yeah, basically, this is all about the layers and organization, and yeah, this is an extreme example of how I make those things work, and have them grouped independently from one another, and I just try and make my workflow work for me, So yeah, okay, that's all I've got for you. Let's go ahead and do the time lapse. Okay, if you guys like this video, please, comment and subscribe, blah, 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 all that YouTube stuff that everyone says. Okay, cool. All right. Catch you guys later. Bye.